And we're back, another edition, Stripe Show Podcasts. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Well, there's one thing for sure. The PGA Tour, when it rolls through Texas, it is guaranteed there's going to be a weather delay at some point. It's absolutely every single time. They almost got it in, though. Last 3 holes, they called them off. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. All the squeegees out there and moving water so they could putt, but lightning pushed them off. They came back, and KH Lee, he was the best player, certainly, over 4 days and got his first win in a young career. We're going to talk about KH and Sam Burns, another second-place finish, and, of course, the PGA Championship coming up. To help us break it all down, the co-hosts of Golf Today on Golf Channel, Shane Bacon. Shane, thanks for joining me from the Northeast.
Yeah, Northeast, and preparing for a big week, obviously. So it's exciting. The weather delay, the squeegeeing on the greens, it brings back one of my big takes is that we worry too much about our lines. You know, when you're like, don't step in my line, and people have been walking all over the green, all day, all the time. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. I think in the olden days with the spikes, it made a little bit more sense before you can tap them down. But seeing the full squeegee action in Schwartzel's line was a reminder that we might worry a little too much about the lines on the putting greens than maybe we should.
I think that's a fair point. And it's not just the line through the putting green. It's the roll through line too, right? So it's like I might hit it past. So don't forget about that. I got my ass chewed one time caddying at the PNC father-son by a player. I'll leave the name out of it.
At the father-son?
At the father-son. And I was caddying for Fred Funk, who I'm not a caddy. It's a funny story in itself. And I was like, I don't want to caddy. He made me caddy. And a player walked aside, watched my walkthrough line. Anyway, but I totally agree. It was like we worry way too much about the line. And KH got it done. They came back. He missed the par putt on 16, but what a shot on 17 to seal the deal. And I tell you, I'm really happy for KH. I've never met him in person. Got a lot of respect for him coming over to here. He's got a second language. I can't imagine how difficult that has to be in another country, really perfecting your craft. But I thought it was really cool to see KJ Choi standing there too. That dude he is all class. And to see him waiting there, congratulating KH Lee on his first win, I thought it was a pretty cool finish.
Yeah, it's scary how good everybody is. It's scary how hard it is to win. I keep going back to this. Joel Damon mentioning it after his win, obviously a couple of months ago. But I mean, you've just got to play so well. And if you play mediocre, especially on a golf course that's soft, somebody's going to go out there and shoot 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, we saw a couple of 9s over the weekend. It's a reminder that there's going to be a lot of 1- and 2-time winners on the PGA Tour. There's going to be a lot of 1-time winners in major championships just because you can play great for 3 days like Sam Burns did, and you get chased down, if you don't quite have it in that final round. And so it's just a reminder at how good golf is and how deep golf is. I mean, KH is a guy that's been very, very close multiple times, finally gets this victory, and who knows what's going to come from there. But yeah, I mean, he's a damn fine player. I'll tell you, he's fun to watch. He's got it all. It'll be interesting to see what he does kind of on these types of stages, PGA Championship, going to US Open and places like that. But yeah, and then you mentioned it, Choi on the back end of that, right? He's sitting back there off the green at 18. And it's just a reminder that these things are special. Americans can get lost, I think, sometimes in how impactful certain moments can be because, we celebrate victory and then we kind of move on as Americans. I always think about this with the Olympics. We have great moments in the Olympics, and then 30 minutes later, we're thinking about what's the next race or who's swimming next or, who's running, all those things. And in certain countries, these wins can really echo. And this is going to be one that echoes.
Yeah, we saw it with Hideki, of course, in the Masters. And I think this one now is certainly going to echo over there in Asia as well. KH, I've been following him. I picked him in my fantasy show. We do a fantasy show every Tuesday, and you have to go down and you got to pick these players in the 7,000s and the 6,000s, right? You got to find these value guys. And I went down to the 6,000, 6,900. Who's the best player coming in, showing the best form? It was KH Lee. It was kind of a no-brainer. It was like, man, this guy has a good putting week. Look out. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he's always been a good driver of the ball. His short game is solid. He probably falls a little short from a consistency standpoint to PGA Tour standards in his approach game, which we know is huge. And then his putting can be a little bit under, as far as the average, if you will, on the PGA Tour. And he comes out, it's his best ball striking of his career, strokes gained approach, positive 8.2, and then he goes positive 4.5 in his putting. And that's what it takes, right? These guys are so good, and they go out and they just move the needle ahead, make a few more putts, and all of a sudden they have a chance to win. And that's exactly what he did. Speaking of putting, Sam Burns, this guy can putt too. I mean, I've been following Sam Burns a long time. He finished second. Of course, he won earlier in the year. No one has held the lead more than Sam Burns after 36 holes. That hadn't been close this year. I look at his game going into the PGA Championship. I think I'm ready to say Sam Burns is ready to win a major right now. I think his short game's always been kind of his weakness. I think it'll be challenged at Kiawah, but I think there's been some nice progression there. I think he's a good enough ball striker. He's a good enough putter. His iron game is great. I think his short game is getting good enough. I think Sam Burns is the real deal. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the 54-hole lead thing is crazy. I mean, didn't have a single lead after a round going into the season. I think he's had 11 now, after a round, and the next best is 6. I mean, that's a pretty big difference from some of the best in the world. I mean, It's rare that we see separation like that, right? When you dive into these types of stats, that you see a player able to separate themselves from the entire rest of the PGA Tour. Yeah, I mean, when you kind of got it all like this, you mentioned it, Travis. It's like if you can play like that and you can hit it as well as he hits it, he's plenty long. And with the putter shows up a little bit like what you said with KH. It's I think Sam Burns can get himself into it. I think we've seen him into every tournament the last few weeks. So why not get yourself in contention at the PGA Championship? I think it's going to be very interesting depending on the weather this week as we kind of get into the PGA Championship talk. It's going to be very interesting to see how impactful draws will be. When you go back to 12, no wind at all. This is a place where the wind typically blows. So if you're a player that gets himself on the right side of the draw, you go out early on Thursday and maybe it's dying down, Friday afternoon, and you get that side of the draw, and you're playing well like Sam Burns, it's why not take advantage of that, because there really is a chance at this golf course where half the field could be in a way eliminated if it does kind of howl over those first 2 rounds. But yeah, I mean, all these guys are just so complete now. It's such a young age. I mean, the Sam Burns thing is just so wild. We were laughing his first pro round. He shot 89 in as an amateur, in Texas. And then, we talked so much about Jordan Spieth as a 16-year-old at the Byron Nelson when he finished his T16. You're just reminded that no matter what you did, these guys are having opportunities as teenagers to play professional golf, even as an amateur, but just going out there and see what it looks like. And then just to kind of progress like Sam Burns did. I mean, he's kind of taken that route of Jordan, of Justin, of Tiger, of Phil, where you're kind of the best at every level. And once you get to the professional ranks, you figure out how to be the best at this level as well, right? And I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be number 1 in the world, but I'm not going to say he's not going to be, considering the way he has played this season.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. He does seem like he's very self-aware and is always taking in what's happening and kind of learning from it and just chipping away at just slowly, incrementally getting better. And he's been coming. His game, the reason I say that is it's easy when someone wins like he did at Valspar. It's like, oh, this guy's going to win all the time. It's easy to say that. But I just look at him and I'm like, he is going to win a lot because he's got length. He hits it straight. His iron game is fantastic. And the dude could putt. I mean, he can really fill it up. I mean, you got to be great at something, I think, on the PGA Tour. And I think Burns is great at putting and hitting the ball. It's like those are 2 great things to be great at, and he statistically it weighs out. So I'm a huge fan of what he does. He doesn't seem overcoached either. He seems like he's very independent in what he's doing, and I like that. Sometimes I think these guys can get overcoached, and there's just too much going on. And for him, it just seems like it's all very clear right in front of him. Give me my driver. Here it comes.
Yeah, please don't overcoach this guy, for goodness sakes, especially what he's doing this year. Again, it's just, I look at consistency. I mean, we get one winner a week, right? And one of the things we do on Golf Day a lot is we focus on the people that didn't win but had good weeks. It's so easy to talk up champions, right? It's maybe a little bit more difficult to dive deeper into the weeds on a leaderboard and find players that had a good putting week when they haven't been putting it well, or had a good ball striking week when the irons haven't been there. And Sam Burns has been a guy that's there, virtually every week, right? He's just consistently in contention, and that speaks volumes for his golf game. So I'm with you. I mean, its potential is out of this world. we spent so much time focusing on that graduation class with Morikawa, and Victor and Wolf, and you look at those guys coming out onto the PGA Tour. It's easy to kind of overlook some of the other young players that have come up, right? It's easy to look up there because they're hungry, they want to win. We have a lot of college players come on the show each and every week when we do PGA Tour U rankings. I always ask those players, what are you expecting once you're done collegiately? What are you looking at as a professional? And it's always about getting out there and competing right away. And 10 years ago, that just wasn't the case. It just wasn't something we saw. I mean, really, outside of Tiger, we saw, Sergio burst on the scene as a teenager, but I mean, these were the outliers. I mean, most players took 4 or 5 years to get comfortable, knowing what travel was about and how to play and what you need to improve and what you need to sharpen. And that's just simply not the case. Collegiate golf is basically like a mini tour at this point, as how talented as that is. And then, of course, you dive into the amateur tournaments and stuff like that. And I mean, they're as hard to win as anything there is in the world. So it's getting younger, it's getting better, and these players are hungrier. And what we're also seeing is the window to be excellent, the window to be dominant is shifting younger as well. I mean, when you come out for 4 or 5 years as a 21, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old, we're seeing some players have a ton of consistent success there as well, when that used to be around the age of 30. So it's all moving younger. It's all getting better. And then on the flip side of that, we're having all these older guys win. So it's been kind of a fun season on the PGA Tour, right? I mean, you get Bland, and we had him on the show on Sunday, and it was a great conversation. You're seeing what Sink's doing, Brian Gay. I mean, it's been kind of this, Lee Westwood. It's been this late 40 run of players, and then you're seeing like 21, 22-year-olds having a lot of success as well. It's a crazy sport.
Rapsodo Mobile Launch Monitor. Improve your golf swing today. Pro-level launch data in the palm of your hand. It is very accurate, within 2% of a $20,000 unit. The Rapsodo MLM app automatically tracks stats and stores video with Shot Tracer, helpful for club gapping and understanding true distances for each club. Rapsodo MLM provides immediate feedback, data, and creates a better practice environment, not mindlessly hitting balls. Extremely portable, cases about the size of a rangefinder. And you know what? You can use it both indoors and outdoors. I love this launch monitor. It's the Rapsodo Mobile Launch Monitor. Check it out at rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com. Yeah, I'll throw Charles Schwartzel in there too. This guy's playing some really good golf. Another
great golf.
Top 3 finish. Let's see, 65, 68, 66, 68. He shot just very consistent golf. And then, hey, is that Luke Donald's name at T13? My goodness, it is good to see Luke Donald back and making the cut and almost one shot out of a top 10. All right, let's go to the PGA Championship. That's what the discussion is going to be all week. Second major of the calendar year, 4th of the super season. Of course, we've got 2 more to go after this, the U.S. Open and then the Open Championship. I mean, the biggest storyline, at least to me, Shane, is that we're back now with the Jordan Spieth career Grand Slam. If you would have told me this 4 or 5 months ago, I may have believed you. I've always thought Spieth would get it back. Now to have him back and playing like he is, already winning, of course, out in Texas. But this is a real conversation. He's certainly on the short list of favorites going into Kiawah. Where do you put him here in your list of picks? Can he do it? Career Grand Slam. He'd be the 5th in all time, right, to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible the fact that we're talking about it. I'm with you. I definitely didn't believe that was going to be the case headed into this season at all, that we'd see this type of play from Jordan Spieth. Of course, going to the Masters, we thought he had a really good chance to win at Augusta National. I mean, I think he's got a great shot. I think Jordan Spieth's a player. I do a podcast with Max Homa, and I think Max falls under this as well. I mean, there are 2 types of players that want it to be nasty. They want the conditions to be tough. They want it to blow. They want players to get frustrated, because they're both the type of players that enjoy the mental battle on the golf course, going from hole 1 through 18 and just trying to figure out a way to post a score. The beauty of golf, right, that we look past sometimes in this new age of technology, is the feel of the day, the feel of the weather, understanding what a good round is, understanding what you need to do, to get the round completed. So, yeah, I think, again, condition-wise, I think if it blows, it's only going to help Jordan Spieth, considering players are going to miss greens at Kiawah. You're going to have to see guys get it up and down in and around these greens, who better to do that than Jordan, right? I mean, he's still, one of the great putters on the PGA Tour. We know how great the iron play's been this season. Kind of looking back on 2015, it's been somewhat similar in terms of the way he gained his way around the PGA Tour with his irons. So I think he's got a great shot. I think he believes he's got a great shot, which is way more important than me believing he has a great shot. Is I think Jordan Spieth is going into this week going, I really think I can win. I think I'm the favorite. I've done what I needed to do. I'm feeling better. I mean, he was obviously knocked out with COVID. He mentioned a couple of weeks ago. So for him to come in and to be this healthy and to be feeling great and to be playing this well, I don't see how he could ever find a better PGA Championship than this one to finally get this done.
Yeah, 6 top 10s in the last 8 events.
From the waste management. I mean, just running back. Look at the waste management run. It's just been so wild. Again, like the Sam Burns talk, the consistency talk.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth, I think we kind of expected when it started to turn around and we started to see some Spieth love, maybe we'd see him pop up here. Maybe we'd see him pop up there. Always plays well at Pebble Beach. We know how he plays at Augusta National. But to see him do this each and every week outside of the Players is incredible. I mean, I can't believe we're getting this type of turnaround from him.
I think the most surprising thing to me is that he's become one of the best iron players in the game again already. His strokes gain approach. I mean, it's JT like, it's Morikawa like. He's in that conversation now, I think, from a strokes gain approach standpoint. We know his putter and short game is just ridiculous when it gets going. I mean, he feels like he chips in at least once around. And if it doesn't go in, it's looking down in the hole.
Right.
I think for him to win, I think it'll just, it'll come down to the driver. We know he's not spraying it like he was. Big ballpark, 7,800. He's going to have that positive 2 or 3, I think, in the strokes gain off the tee to get this done. If it just feels like if he's spraying it off the tee, this will be a tough one, I think, to, work yourself around and win a PGA. He could certainly do it from a top 20 perspective. But giving up a little distance, we know the fairways are kind of soft and sticky. This will be a big track. This is going to be a huge ballpark for these boys. And I think he can do it as well. I love the fade off the tee. But it's just been his iron game. Like that to me, Shane, strokes gain approach consistently +6 and 7. I mean, those are big numbers every single week. He's wearing these guys out with iron play.
I was reading a Justin Ray piece on PGAtour.com before our show on Sunday. And in 2015, he'd pick up more strokes on the field with his irons than his putter. We always would dive into the putter and how incredible the putting was, from distance. I mean, it seems like every 30-footer. I still contend that the putting made at 16 at St. Andrews is maybe one of the loudest I've personally yelled watching golf in my entire life. Because I just thought to myself, he's out of it. He's done. He's not going to do this. The Grand Slams over, and then he makes a 40-footer on 16, and you kind of go, is this kid serious? But the iron play was better than the putting in 2015 when he was doing all that. So it's the driver thing doesn't worry me, I think, as much as it worries you. I just think he's got it figured out. I just feel like the swing looks figured out. I mean, I was listening to him on No Laying Up last week, just talking about the golf swing and how he feels like he's got it to a point where he knows what's coming. And I mean, he's still trying to tighten it. He's still trying to get it better and better. He always keeps talking about this 1% every single day. But listening to him talk about the golf swing, watching what he's able to do, he's never going to hit every fairway. But there's been great players on the PGA Tour that didn't hit a lot of fairways that were awesome. Right. I mean, Tiger Woods was a sprayer of the golf ball, right?
Yep.
Tiger missed it both ways, even in his prime. So for Spieth, it's just making sure all the stuff that's good is really good, and then hoping that the rest of it is fine, right? And if that's the case, I don't think the distance of the golf course really plays that much into Spieth's success, because he's not short. I mean, he's not long, but he's not short. But for Spieth, it's just about going out there and leaning on the part that works. I always go back to Hoylake in this regard, right? Tiger didn't just say, I'm only hitting driver once, because he didn't have confidence in the driver. He had so much confidence in his irons that he said, I can compete with the 6 and 7 iron when these guys are hitting wedges. That's how good I am with my irons. I mean, Spieth's not to that level, but I think Jordan understands, if I can find fairways and get the ball somewhere in play, I'm going to be able to, the first step's done, right? I'm done with the first step. It's like when you cook. I mean, cutting up all the vegetables and all this stuff is the most annoying part. Somebody does that for me, I can knock out the rest of the meal, right? I'm okay with that stuff. So for Spieth, it's just, let's cut those vegetables up. Let's find a few fairways. Let's take the right clubs off tees and put it in a certain position. And if I'm okay at that, I'm going to be great for the week because everything else is so solid.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Let me throw this at you. And there's probably nothing there with, I look at Justin Thomas, and I love watching Justin Thomas play as well. I think he's the most inconsistent putter of all the great players that we have right now. I mean, it feels feast or famine, right? He's either
you want to call Rory, or is Rory not on the line?
I'm going to say JT is there.
Can we FaceTime Rory in?
What we saw at the Players, he just ran out of holes. I mean, if he could have just kept playing, he would have made birdies until you couldn't see the ball anymore. And then you see in the last 2 weeks, and he just can't hit anything. I mean, it's like, it's strange. He's always kind of been like that. And I know he's doing a lot of things to try to help quantify what the difference is between those huge gaps that he has of, +6 to -6. And is there anything with JT you think? Because you think of JT and Spieth coming out. We know they're good friends, right? And Spieth dominates early. And he was the man, the golden child, the better player. Then Spieth goes away. Here comes JT. And he was kind of building a little bit before that. But now JT takes over. And now Spieth's back. And JT's there. He wins the Players. Is there anything where JT right now is like, look, I got to show, I'm going to beat this guy. There's nothing more that I want to see than JT and Spieth down the stretch. Nothing. I don't want Spieth, or I don't want Rory. I don't want Bryson. I want Spieth and JT in the final group down the stretch.
You want Riviera NCAAs? I like it. I like the thought. I think a lot of these times we think these players think more of around the tournaments and around the sport than maybe they actually think of. I mean, I think for JT, it's just things are loose right now. The putter, you mentioned it. The putting is all over the place, and when you're not putting well, that affects the rest of your game, right? I mean, it's just now you feel like you got to hit the ball close. You feel like you got to find fairways. You can't make. I went through this personally the last year where when you feel like you don't know if you're going to make a 5-footer or not, then if you miss a green, you feel like you make a bogey, right? Mm-hmm. And for JT, it seems to be playing its way through the golf bag because the putter was unbelievable at Sawgrass, right? And it just hasn't showed up the rest of the year. So it just doesn't seem as sharp for JT. It's so weird going to this PGA. Dustin, Bryson, JT. Yeah. Even Rory. Who I think everybody's going to look at the win at the Wells Fargo and go, "Okay, Rory's back." I am on the complete other side of that. But there's so many of these top name players that we always expect to show up at the major championships. That's games are either not there, health is not there. Koepka still can't quite bend over and pick the golf ball up out of the hole. So there is such an opportunity for somebody to come in here and to your point about Sam Burns, Jordan. If you're playing well right now, there's a lot of guys that are typically scary at majors that aren't playing great golf. So if you can scratch off 5 or 6 of those names, the one name guys on the PGA Tour and say, I don't really like their chances this week, it gives the Spieths and the Rahms of the world way more of an opportunity and way more confidence. I'm going in playing well. You're not. I like my chances a lot more than yours.
Yeah. I think it's been like that. Excuse me. I think it's been like that for a while now. Just a lot of question marks with some of the bigger names. And as you're handicapping it and you're putting these things together, you're like, man, there's just no clear cut up top.
Right.
Because there's, as you said, there's no dominant player. We know that. DJ probably as close as we've seen there with that run, but where are we at with him right now? Who knows? So along those lines, let's get into some odds here. I'll give you a pot of 3 guys.
Okay.
And you can pick your favorite out of those 3. Let's just go to the top 3 right now. DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's see. Rory is 11-1 to win the PGA. Rahm is 14 and JT is 14. So of those 3, who do you like?
So I think I'm going to pick Rahm to win. So I'm going to go Rahm. I think Rahm is the guy. I've decided I'm not picking for the foreseeable future. I'm not picking a winner at a major that's already won a major. That's basically my new rule. There's so many guys trying to join the major club that are awesome. When you start to go through the list of players that haven't won a major and you start to go, this guy, this guy's unbelievable. This guy's a top 5 player. So I like Rahm. I just, in terms of driving the golf ball and ball striking, again, this is a golf course that you're going to have to lean on the ball striking. So I think Rahm's got an unbelievable chance this week. And I like him in that group. And I think I like him in the field.
Just feels like Rahm, It feels like Rahm is the most due, doesn't it, of all the guys?
Yeah, it's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, it just like let's get one now, right?
Yeah,
It felt a little like JT when he won the PGA. It's like it felt like it was kind of his time, right? Okay, you get yours now. Now you get yours now. I mean, even Bryson at Winged Foot felt a little like that, where he transformed everything, and we all know about the distance, but we forget sometimes how good of a player he is, and it just kind of felt like that was Bryson's week, and maybe this will be the one we look back on and say this was Rahm's week.
He's had really just one flashy round Sunday at the Masters. I mean, that was kind of it. And, but he's had a few top 10s there, Genesis, Farmers, Players. He was 34th last week. The putter's been chilly for sure. I mean, he just hasn't quite had that putter to push him forward. I think it feels like there's a bounce here, a bounce there, can't quite make enough putts. And he's just kind of in neutral. And neutral for him can be a top 10.
Right.
Because he's like you said, he's such a good ball striker. But I think he is the most due for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised at this place. All right, let's move down the board. Spieth is 14. Okay, so I'll give you him. Bryson, U.S. Open champ, 16. And here's a guy looking for his first major, Xander, 16.
I like Jordan. I think Jordan will be in the mix on Sunday. Not going to sit here and say he's going to win, but I think Jordan puts himself in a position to at least have a chance. So I like Jordan. You mentioned most due. I think Xander and Tony are probably names you could throw in there. I mean, I know Finau hasn't won a lot, but when you finish in the top 10 in basically every major you play in, I feel like you should probably at least be at the table looking at the salad, getting ready to eat. So I feel like those are two guys that could be in the most due department. But again, I just think I sometimes just look you have to look back on things like this. But when we look back at this PGA, and let's say Jordan gets it done, right? Let's say Jordan completes the career Grand Slam. Looking back on his season to this point, it kind of makes sense. He got a win. Mm-hmm. He played well at the Masters. He played well the week before, but didn't win. And kind of a weird, weather delay, birdie fest golf course. It just feels like the steps are there. So I think Jordan's around on the weekend, and so I'm going to take Jordan just because of that.
I think Xander's finally put some pieces together. I think he struggled in February pretty hard, early March, and it was through his bag. It's just everything wasn't good. But I think the last 2 weeks, Masters and Wells Fargo, he looks at least statistically like he's starting to get back to where he was. I think Xander will be a force, but it's certainly tough to pick against Spieth. I mean, he's magic. I mean, it's just tough to pick it. We've seen it over and over again. Like it's not like we just seen it once. Dude goes bogey. What's he? Bogey's 15, 16 on Saturday, and then he drops a bomb for eagle on 18. It's like, how maddening is that to play with him? I mean, it has to be. It has to be maddening.
I can only imagine he's the most frustrating match play player of all time to play against. I just couldn't even imagine what it must be like, because we hear it a million times during match play tournaments. The opponent has to expect the person to make this.
Yep.
And for Spieth, and you mentioned earlier, it's the chip ins, it's the bunker shots, it's out of trouble, it's horrible eyes, it's creativity. It's just his mind sees things. It's like a great passer in basketball, right? You can't really explain why you're a great passer. You just see it before other people see it. Mm-hmm. And so you can see the cut as it's happening, even maybe a moment before. You can see the defender leaning one way or the other, and you just know that you've got that lane to get the ball there quickly. And for Spieth, that's what I see is just sometimes mentally the lie isn't as scary to him as it is to other people. The bunker shot's not as bad, the lie's not as bad.
Yep.
And I would love to have a poll from PGA Tour players of who's the most nauseating person to play in match play.
Oh, for sure.
And let's see if Spieth's leading, because I'd like to know who else is on there. What other players would make that list? I'm sure there's some that we don't even talk about that probably always make the 25-footer for par to make you make the 8-footer you hit in there close for birdie.
I think it's hands down. I don't think it's close. That guy does stuff that it's like, this is ridiculous. I sat there and watched, like, he'll make it, and he did. By golly, he rolled down through the French, perfect speed, right to left. I mean, like, good grief, get out of here. I mean, that's what he does, and that's what's scary. That's why you can't pick against him. There was a teacher during his struggles. I was talking with him, and he was invited out to watch Spieth just with his putting when he was struggling in a short game, just to give an opinion. And he went out there, and he put him through all his tests and protocol. And I talked to him afterwards. He says, I've never in my life seen anything like that before. Like, I've never seen someone execute putting, chipping, pitching, bunk. Like, he goes, it was just ridiculous. And we're supposedly in a time where he's struggling. Like, this is crazy. You know, I mean, he was freewheeling it. There was no pressure, but he's like, it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, he really is a genius at golf. He's a genius is what he is, especially with that wedge in the putter in his hand. All right, with the favorites, one more here. Victor's at 18. I'm going to give you 4 here. Victor's 18. DJ's 18. Jeez. And then it jumps, believe it or not, to 28 is Daniel Berger, and then Morikawa. Where's the respect? At 28.
Morikawa, is he 28 to 1?
28 to 1.
I like Berger a little bit this week, but Morikawa is just, you know, when you're next level ball striking, you know, when you're a next level ball striker, where the best in the world are looking at you as the best at a skill, right? How do you not like him at a place where you're going to be hitting long irons in? You're going to be hitting a lot of mid irons on par 4s. I mean, we're going to see players pull clubs we never see on the PGA Tour into some of these holes.
Yep.
How do you not like Colin Morikawa to have a week? So I would say of those 4, I want to go with Berger, but I think I'm going to go with Colin. I think this golf course is going to demand stuff that plays into Colin Morikawa's game.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with that. It's hard to say with DJ. I mean, 18, you just don't ever see odds with
Never.
DJ. There was a time he was down there at 6 to 1, 5 to 1 when he was dominant. You know, now he's up to 18. I mean, even Vegas doesn't even know what the hell's going on with him. You know, you look at, I go back to the PGA when he won back in 20. It was the best putting week Colin Morikawa ever had in his career. Positive 8-1. Best one. And what's funny is the 2 weeks before that was his worst. Negative 8.3.
Right.
I mean, it's just try handicapping this stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, that's Morikawa though. I mean, and I think that's what it's going to be. I really do. I don't know if it's going to change. It's kind of how Thomas is. He's kind of like a Thomas, really. They got adequate distance. They can drive it. They have great iron players. They can pitch it around the greens with the best of them. And then they've just got this asterisk putter that's like, if I work, you're all in trouble. And if I don't, I'll probably barely make the cut. You know, I mean, that's kind of what it is. And that's not a bad way to play golf. You make a lot of money and win a lot of tournaments like that.
Yeah, ball striking gets you in the top 10. I mean, that's obviously what we're seeing. And that's, you know, in this day and age on the PGA Tour, I mean, it used to be fairways and greens, and you've got to be a great putter and a great pitcher. And it's just simply about the ball striking. And when you look at the best in the world, right, they all have that in common. I mean, there's a reason Tony Finau finishes in the top 10 all the time, you know, and it's because he hits the ball great, and he hits the ball way better than the other players in the field. So yeah, I will be very interested in see what kind of we've got about 4 or 5 names I think everybody's going to be focused on headed into this week. And there are a lot of players that aren't getting as much press. I think our defending champion being one of those. It's going to be very interesting to see what Morikawa does, what Berger does,
Right.
You know, what Victor Hovland does. I mean, it's just going to be, I just feel like there's a group of about 10, 15, 20 guys that will get questions before the week from the media, might have a press conference. But when the balls are in the air on Thursday and they go out there and shoot 66, it will completely change these storylines that maybe aren't getting enough press headed in.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And guys, I just looked his last 5 tournaments, Shane, Colin Morikawa, his average strokes gain approach, positive 7.3. It's just
must be so fun.
That's silly.
It must be so fun sitting over an 8-iron, having no fear of missing the green
Silly.
ever.
I mean, it's just crazy good with his iron game. All right, well, I'm looking through here. I'll give you a long shot here. I'll give you time to think of someone maybe we're not. I talked to Simpsons caddy Paul Tesori last week, and everything seems to be good with Webb coming in. His neck's feeling better. He's 45 to 1. Cameron Smith, 46. Koepka's 50. Answer's been playing well. He's 55 to 1.
Where's Leishman on the list?
Mark Leishman is 80 to 1.
Ooh, I like Leishman. Played well here in 12. I mean, I'm not giving too much credit to the 2012 PGA. That's one of my Rory points, but He did play well when it was here last time. He's been playing pretty solid golf as of late. I like Leishman a little bit this week. 80 to 1 is wild.
That is. That's a big number. And I tell you, I kind of like a guy coming back is English. He's 90 to 1. I feel like he's kind of recaptured some of his momentum here, what we were seeing. And And I think if the chips fell right, he could be there. Has the length as well. And Bubba's playing good.
Well, he just won that tournament with Jay Monahan, for goodness sakes. I mean,
Bubba
when you got the commish as your partner, you better show up and play well. You know what? I played in a scramble once with Bubba Watson. We won. I think Bubba's probably has a pretty polished record when he plays in the everyman, 2-man or 4-man events. I bet he's a good partner to have.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Shane Bacon, thank you so much. Jumping on the podcast. This was fun. We'll do it again. Enjoy your week, PGA Championship, and we'll see you on the tube here soon with you and my buddy Damon Hack. You guys do a great job.
I appreciate it, Travis. Anytime. And can I just say one thing real quick before we go? I don't like Rory this week. I don't love Rory's chances. I think it's going to be a very popular player to focus on, considering the Wells Fargo. Certain players play unbelievable at certain golf courses. He has always played well at Quail Hollow. He's going to be people are going to talk about what he did in 2012. It's a different golf course, and I'm expecting different conditions. So just beware. If you're a person that does leagues and all that stuff, Rory's going to be a guy a lot of people are going to throw in. I'm just telling you to be careful. And if I'm wrong, I will happily eat my words. Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
He's the favorite, 11-1. So I'm with you, though. I think I'm with you on Rahm. He's due. I think Rahm and English right now are my early leans.
I like English a lot. Thanks, Travis, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Shane. Thanks so much.
I just want to interrupt this interview real quick and give a shout out to my friends over at OnCore Golf. OnCore provides some of the most cutting-edge technology in a golf ball that I have ever seen. Their team in Buffalo, New York is changing the script of golf technology through their perimeter-weighted designs, which offer players enhanced accuracy and control for every shot on the course. With their award-winning Elixir and Avant 55 golf balls, they are transforming the game for players of all skill levels. Visit OnCoreGolf.com/Travis Fulton for more details about their products that are revolutionizing the game. Now back to the Stripe Show.